Joining us right now, Jamie Radtke, longtime Tea Party activist, grassroots activist, in fact, the co-founder of the Virginia Tea Party Patriots Federation in the Commonwealth. Now, her website, thebowlelephant.com. Well, Jamie Radtke, good morning.
Very good morning to you.
You sound like you have a little spring in your step. Listen, so many people are analyzing this. We've opened up the calls this morning for the past 2 hours and got a lot of people's opinions. Let's get your opinion. What was the clear message last night? Was this just immigration? Was there more at play here?
Yeah, I think people that are making this about immigration really have no clue about the dynamics of the 7th District and what's been going on here for the last 5 years. To me, when I hear those reports, it's national outsiders looking at this and trying to sort of make an assessment.
Well, that's why we've got you. Tell me what's going on the ground there. How did this happen?
You know, the last 5 years, there's been tremendous discontent with Cantor because people truly felt like he was more interested in the Fortune 500 companies than his own voters. And he had made so many enemies. He wasn't holding town hall meetings. He wasn't meeting with people. And it wasn't even that he was stiff-arming people in the district, but he actually went out and made enemies by slating and removing Tea Party people, removing conservatives from Republican committees. And he just really sort of made his own bed over the last couple of years. Between that and the most amazing ground game from the Tea Party that I've ever seen in my 20-plus years of doing politics, we saw a huge upset yesterday.
Well, let me just sort of drill down on that, because late last month, the Cantor campaign ran its own poll. And they had Cantor up by 34 points. You say, well, okay, you look at that and you say, well, that's the internal poll. But other polls didn't have it quite that big a gap, but they had Cantor up significantly. This is why it was so shocking to so many people that this thing went the other way. So tell me what happened in the last few days that turned this thing around, if you believe the polls may have been even somewhat accurate.
Well, I think that what the polls showed was that there was a problem. The issue there was that people weren't comparing it to 2 years ago to see that there was a major problem in Eric Cantor's campaign. 2 years ago, when I ran for U.S. Senate, Eric Cantor also had a primary challenge, and he got 80% of the vote in the primary. So when Ray Allen and McLaughlin releases their polls 10 days out and showed that he was only at 62%, we all knew there was a problem because it showed that he had dropped almost 20 points and there was still 10 days left.
All right, but I get that. But 20 points, but he was still 34 points up. What happened?
Well, what happened was the message that I heard at the polls over and over again, and actually the same phrase was used, ironically enough, was we need to send a shot across the bow.
Yeah.
He's gotten too big for his britches, and nobody in Washington, D.C. is listening to us, and the Republican Party and that leadership's just doing whatever they want and ignoring the grassroots. And I heard it over and over and over again. And all these people said they had voted for Eric Cantor his entire career.
Yeah. So Jamie Radtke is our guest, and of course I introduced you as one of the founding members of the Virginia Tea Party Patriots Federation. You just said, Jamie Radtke, that this was a huge grassroots effort from the Tea Party, but I want to be clear on what you mean by that, because Laura Ingraham, who was an outspoken opponent of Eric Cantor, she was on Fox News last night, and she made an interesting point. Listen to this.
People are saying, well, this is a big Tea Party victory. Just so people understand this, the National Tea Party Network, Tea Party Patriots, Freedom Works, I don't believe any of these organizations did anything for Dave Bratt. Dave Bratt couldn't get Jenny Beth Martin, who's the head of the Tea Party Patriots, the largest Tea Party organization in the country. He couldn't get her on the phone.
So, Jamie Radtke, when you say this was a huge ground swell from the Tea Party and a grassroots effort from the Tea Party, do you mean what the Tea Party used to be in the old days? It was just a bunch of people getting together, getting their voices out there?
Yeah, I'm not talking about the national organizations. Bratt's experience with the national organizations was the same one I experienced, where they cheerlead you behind the scenes and quiet, but they won't come out publicly to support you. What I'm talking about we have over 7 different local Tea Party groups here in the 7th District.
And that's where the real power is, isn't it? That's really where the power is, those local groups.
It is where the real power is. And we had hundreds and hundreds of people door knocking for the last 4 to 5 months. This wasn't something that we did in a week. This was something that slowly built over 5 months and peaked at the exact time we needed it to. And he didn't just win by a small margin. He won by over 10 points. This was huge.
Yes, it was. It was a clear-cut victory. All right, so let me ask you this other question, because this is a tradition in the Commonwealth of Virginia that sometimes there is some party crossing in primaries. Do you know if any Democrats were showing up at the polls?
I have no doubt that some Democrats showed up at the polls yesterday. I worked them almost all day. And the irony in the Democrats turning out to vote yesterday was that Ray Allen, Eric Canada's consultant, created that mess because he spent $5 million on TV labeling Dave Bratt a liberal college professor who was best friends with the Democrat governor, Tim Kaine. And then he said, come vote June 10th. And he ran $5 million worth of mail, TV, and radio with that message. And then many of the Democrats were like, okay.
All right, Jamie Radtke. Thank you for joining us again. The website is thebullelephant.com. As this year goes on, we want to touch base with you, Jamie Radtke. Thanks for joining us